Okay, hey everyone, welcome back to Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. We're on the final episode for the main game here, so get ready for some shenanigans in this episode, because we have quite a bit to get through. So, to start things off, we're going to head over to Belfry Luna, we're going to talk to the Bell Guardian, and join that covenant just so I can get some extra dialogue, and we're going to kill the Belfry Gargoyles.
The bell belongs to the princess, it do. Stay back or we slice you to bits. Me and my chums, we shan't be left. Stay back or your pieces. Tiniest pieces. A long time ago, the princess she made me. Yes, just like so. To guard this bell for the prince's honour. Stay away, foul undead, or you'll be a goner. Stay back! It belongs to the princess, it do! You wish to guard the bell, you do! For the prince and the princess forever! For true. In trouble. The ring brings you here. Slice them to shreds, whoever they are, whoever be they near, be they far. Slice them to pieces for the princess. In open the bell of the princess. In then the bell of the prince. Yes! Tear him to shreds, tear him to bits. Gather around and ring the bell swift. We've been ringing this bell forever, we have. We've been...
So there we just got some very valuable information on both Alkin and Ven. We've discussed those two places at length before, but it's really hard to discern where those two locations are based in Drain Lake, and also which one is which. We can't really tell which one is Alkin and which one is Ven, although theory has it that Ven is the Iron King's domain, where the Iron Keep has residence and the land surrounding that, and then the places near the Lost Bastille and the bell located above in this area, in Belfry Luna, are known as the territories of Alkin. So, once again, that's all just speculation and presumption, but from some item descriptions in the game, we can tell that the Iron King was once known as a prince, and those item descriptions are mostly prevalent within the ones that talk about the prince and Mytha the Baneful Queen, or Mytha. It basically tells us that the old Iron King was a prince that lorded over pretty much his own entire territory in that time, and Mytha was always lusting after him and trying to get his attention. But it makes sense to me that the old Iron King would be that prince, because he has a castle and an entire land up in that area that is solely his. The bigger question is, who is the princess of Alkin and Ven? In the old Iron King's lifetime, we know that he was only with two people, Mytha, the Baneful Queen, and his mistress, who Mytha was extremely jealous about. And I'm pretty sure that I've gone over this theory before. I can't remember exactly who I theorized as being the old Iron King's mistress, but I'm pretty sure I deduced it down to being either someone in the area around the Lost Bastille, or someone in the area surrounding the Ivory King DLC. And that is because it says that they are basically really far apart, and it's sort of a long-distance relationship, if you will. So it has to be somewhere, like, on the South Pole to the North Pole of where the Iron King's keep is. And that was actually the reason why the Prince and Princess of Alkin and Ven built these bells, so they could ring one at one end of the world, and then the other would ring back if they heard that bell at the other end. So it's kind of like a form of communication for them. But that is the most information, or the most information I've found about Alkin and Ven throughout the entire game. I'm sure there's more little bits in places that I probably haven't even scratched the surface of, but I just don't know about them, so I'm sure there's more theories and stuff, but that's about as much concrete evidence as we get within the game itself. And as you can see, we are having a boss fight. So these are the Belfry Gargoyles, a boss fight that you may find similar to, well, not similar, I mean like carbon copied, just with more Belfry Gargoyles, to the one in Dark Souls 1, which was the Bell Gargoyles that were guarding over the first Bell of Awakening up in the Undead Parish. So this kind of adds more to the Alkin and Ven theory, stating that these two bells of Alkin and Ven may actually be the two bells of Awakening from Dark Souls 1, which I find really, really interesting and really cool if you think about it from that perspective, because then having these bell gargoyles appear again in this game legitimately makes sense, and I'm inclined to just believe that. I don't want to believe anything else really, because otherwise these bell gargoyles don't really make sense in the overall scheme of things. And these bells really do look similar to the ones in Dark Souls 1 as well. So I'm really inclined to believe that this is the case and that they've actually done something with this area that isn't just a copy of a boss fight from Dark Souls 1, and they've actually brought the Bells of Awakening back in Dark Souls 2, even in just this small way. But yeah, that is another side area of Dark Souls 2 ticked off for us. This is an in-depth run once again, so we'll be tackling all of the side areas in this episode before we reach the final bosses. On New Game Plus, I would highly recommend fighting the Belfry Gargoyles because they drop a ring that is either the Southern or Northern Ritual Band that actually puts up your spell slots by, I think it's 2 or 3, and that is just by wearing the ring. So even if you aren't a spell class or a mage, if you wear the Southern or Northern Ritual Band, I can't remember which one it is for the life of me, but if you wear the one that increases your attunement slots, it will give you 2 or 3 just by wearing it, which is especially helpful if you are a pyromancer. We talked about pyromancer classes in the last episode, and this just adds to that really. If you are a pyromancer, then equipping, I think it's the Northern Ritual Band. I'm just going to go with Northern because the Southern, I'm pretty sure, is the one that increases your spell uses, not your attunement slots. But if you equip the Northern Ritual Band as a pyromancer, you won't really have to worry about putting any souls into leveling up your permanent attunement slots for your character. The only downside of having that ring equipped is that you lose 1 ring slot, which could also be used for something else. But you gain like 3 attunement slots, which is great, because that means you can put more of your levels into either faith or whatever else you want. And like I've said before, I probably will show off a pyromancy build like that when we get to the Ivory King DLC, since a lot of things in that area are weak to pyromancy. As for what is going on right now though, this invader is known as Vorgal the Sinner. He doesn't really have any lore relevance, he just used to be here in the original version of this game to guard the Bastille key that would unlock cells and such in this area. But now he guards over something a bit more worth it, I suppose, although the new item he guards over makes no fucking sense whatsoever to be here in this location. It made a lot more sense being in the location it was at first in the original game. And here we grab an enchanted falchion, hope I'm pronouncing that right, I've never actually had to say that word. And then under here, we grab the Dragon Tooth, a Petrified Something, and a Bright Bug. A goddamn Dragon Tooth. Why move this here, of all things? It was in the Dragon Area to begin with, and it made complete sense to be there because there are dragons in the Dragon Area. Where are the dragons in the Lost Bastille? Oh, I don't know what the thought process was here. I don't think there was one. I don't know. I'm just gonna move past it. So the next thing we have to do on the list is defeat King Vendrick himself. So that requires us going back to the Undead Crypt and then going to where he is located in that crypt and, well, just hitting him a few times until he aggroes. Vendrick is probably the easiest boss in this game apart from, well, say like the Dragon Riders and all those ones that don't matter, and the Ancient Dragon. He has like 3 moves overall and 3 types of attacks, so it's not hard to figure out his pattern. And this kind of plays in with his lore as well, because he's an undead, he's a hollow, and he really has no will to attack you at all, so it's kind of just a pathetic old man swinging a sword around until you kill him, which is it's kind of sad in retrospect, but it really plays into his character that has become this hollow. And oh man, this part again, so it takes me a few tries to, with this weapon that I'm using, to kill the hollows in this part without them ringing the bell and awakening all of those Ladia Pyromancers. I'm pretty sure I cut out like 3 or 4 runbacks of me trying to do this part over and over again, because as you see there, I hit the bell, and then I'm just like, fuck it, just do it again, homeward bone, back to the bonfire, and we'll start this all over again. And I did that like 5 or 6 times, and then I finally got it, and I used pyromancy. So yeah, it really is a fucking annoying part to do, especially in this version of the game with a sword like that I'm using. So yeah, pyromancy is the way to go for taking out these hollows in this part of the game. Either pyromancy or spells, magic, or a weapon that has a very, very narrow vertical swing. Because, man, you do not want to hit that bell. I mean, even if I did hit the bell, I could have just suicide run all the way through this part and just gotten to Vendrick. But I'm not sure if the Lady of Pyromancers still follow you in, because the Cyan Knights don't, but I've never tried running through with the Lady of Pyromancers active. I would highly suggest just running past the Cyan Knights, since in this version of the game there's only 2 of them active at this door now, when in the original game there were like 5 or 6 of them, and it just makes it so much easier to just run past them, because as soon as you get to this circle of light on the floor, the Cyan Knights stop following you through to Vendrick. Anyway, basic strategy for Vendrick is really simple. So basically just circle strafe around to the right side of him, or the left side, depending on which you prefer. I'm pretty sure the right side is easier because his swings will just go over you at some points. But the left side, I don't know, can be probably a bit more dangerous, but still work out for you in the end as well. As I said though, Vendrick only has 3 or 4 main attacks, and he really doesn't stray from those patterns very often, so you should be able to get his moveset down quite fast, even on the first try. The main thing to remember in this fight is conserve stamina, because whilst Vendrick's attacks may be slow and he may not have many of them, they cover quite a wide distance, and you need to be able to either run to him, like when he jumps back in that case, or roll twice under both of his attacks so you can avoid them completely. And that is the reason why I circle strafe right. That attack right there has a reach that goes over your head at some points, so it's good to be on the right side to avoid that, because if you're on the left, like I almost was just then, his attacks will most definitely hit you. So Vendrick is right-handed. It's always best to dodge around the side that he has an offhand with. And in this case, his offhand is his left hand, so that makes the most sense. Another main thing is that you only want to get 1 or 2 attacks in between his hits. So, 1, and then I don't go for another one, but sometimes you will get 2 shots in. However, you want to conserve that stamina and not get greedy, because whilst his hits are slow, they pack a punch, and a big punch at that. So you saw before, he took off half of my health in 1 hit, and I have around 40 vigor. So even at that range, he can still take off half my health in 1 hit. That is why patience is absolutely key in this fight. It might get a bit boring, and it might not be the most vivid fight you've ever fought, but it gets you some pretty cool items in the end. So just wait it out and repeat your patterns, and it should be over in no time. And we're about to beat Vendrick right here, so let's take a moment to breathe it in. That was a pretty well fought battle, even for a dead king. Speaking of the items you get after defeating King Vendrick, you must go to the Shrine of Armana after his defeat to gain them. However, right here we have something very interesting, a memory of King Vendrick himself.
Seeker of fire, coveter of the throne. I am Vendrick, ruler of Drang Lake. As flame rises, so does it fade. Such is the way of things. Do you intend to link the fire? Then you must first take the throne. Prove your worth. Find the ancient crowns. Seek adversity, and they will be yours. And your wishes granted. And your wishes granted.
Okay, so we'll talk about that dialogue in a second, but here we also have something incredibly interesting. Wait for it. That is Velstart, the Royal Aegis himself. That is such a cool little detail they've put into King Vendrick's memory, that Velstart is still there watching over his king, and it's not even something they needed to put in, it's just a cool little detail that makes complete sense, because since Vendrick is remembering this, or we're peering into Vendrick's memory, we are also seeing the time and the place that he was in during this memory. And of course it makes sense to have Velstart there, because he was not dead at that time, since we were the one that killed him. Oops. So if you've never played up to this point in Dark Souls 2, or maybe this is your first playthrough, you're probably asking yourself, what the hell else can there be left to do? And well, I'm glad you asked, because there's about 5 more things we need to do before the end of the game. So let's make a little list. First of all, we have to go grab Vendrick's items and soul from the Shrine of Amana. After that, we have to finish up one more quest line that you probably forgot about. It doesn't get you a trophy or anything, but it is a quest line nonetheless. Next on the list after that, we will have to swoosh right into Belfry's Soul in the Iron Keep, which is a place that I did not go into previously when we were in the Iron Keep, because it is a completely optional side area that is, well, it's pretty dull actually. It's a really, really boring area, and it's only really there for lore significance to do with the bells of Alkin and Ven. And also, to anyone that got that Misadventures of Skooks reference that I just laid down, keep that in mind, because it will be coming up again later. Anyway, moving past that, next we'll go on to Things Betwixt, and we'll open up a shortcut that we forgot to do a while ago. It's just a small thing, but it is something to do nonetheless, and if you don't know about it, it can be helpful for getting around Things Betwixt a bit faster. I'm pretty sure I also pick up a good item in Things Betwixt as well once we open that shortcut, so there's that too. Next we'll be moving on to getting every Estus Flask shard. That'll get my Estus Flask to 12 swigs, and I'll be able to use it 12 times before it runs out. And those are just a few small things in between here and the end of the game as well. So there we have Vendrick's Soul, and this is his armor set right here. I'm gonna swap out the Forlorn armor set for Vendrick's armor set because it just looks, to me it looks a lot cooler, and it's really regal and nice looking. But the descriptions, we have to go over those quickly. Crown of King Vendrick. What makes a king? Some say that it is birthright, while others call it destiny. Perhaps it is not important, as long as the king's name serves to unite his people. Oh, and before I forget, I'm also just taking a look at the Forlorn helm as well. Born of Aldir's obsession with the first sin, the Forlorn lost both their corporeal form and a world to call their own. Now they drift into other worlds ever in search of a home. So that just gives us a bit more information on the Forlorn, most of which being stuff we have already discussed. And Vendrick's armor set, well, the entire armor set has the same description pretty much. There's only a few differentiating lines that are about what piece of armor it is. And actually, now that I recall, I don't actually change over to Vendrick's set. I stay with most of the Forlorn armor and I just use the Crown of the King. Anyway, now that we've got what we came for, let's go ahead and homeward bone back to Majula. Alright, so as we know, this is going to be the last episode of the main game. Because of that, I am going to get a little bit weird with editing in some parts of this video. So yeah, they're going to come about randomly, and it was just me personally having fun with the last episode of the main game. And yeah, I'm just warning you now, there are going to be some parts of this video that are going to get weird. Anyway, what we have to do next is finish off that other quest line I was talking about. So, as I said, most of you, or some of you at least, will have forgotten about this completely because she is someone we met quite a while ago, but she has been invading our world ever since we met her. And does that ring any bells yet? If so, then good, you're on the right track because we have to go take care of her right now. And also, that stone map that was downstairs that I just took a look at quickly shows you where and what bosses you have defeated around Drang Lake. Well, not what bosses, but it shows you the locations of the bosses that have been defeated so far. And here, we are about to see the effect of the Crushed Eye Orb. If you've played Dark Souls 1 and you've finished Knight Lautrec of Karim's side quest in that game, you'll know exactly what this message means. All you need to do is go into your inventory when this message appears and use the Crushed Eye Orb to take part in this event.
Curses puzzled me out. At least now I can finish you off guilt-free.
So, now that we've invaded Lycia's world, it's become abundantly clear to us that she is in fact the nameless usurper that has been annoying the hell out of us and invading us all the way through this playthrough. Although we don't get any reasoning or motive behind any of her actions, it seems like she's just someone that puts on a facade, acting like this helpless miracle user that is wound up in her faith, when, in contrary to popular belief, she is actually this murderous psychopath that goes around invading people's worlds and stealing their souls for God knows what. I'm pretty sure there was a stage earlier in the game and in this playthrough where Licia told us that the only way to use the rotunda key in the middle to move the doors in this room around was to activate it with miracles. But then when we kill her right now, you'll see that we get something called the rotunda lockstone, and this is actually the lockstone that moves around this central pillar that reveals other doors in this room. So yeah, it turns out that Licia has been a liar and a murderer and an usurper this entire time. It's kind of vague what the Nameless Usurper means, like what it means within the lore and what Licia was trying to do as the Nameless Usurper. But what I'm guessing is that any monarch that tries to come through Drang Lake, Licia takes it upon herself to, I don't know, maybe stop any of those monarchs or monarchs-to-be from trying to reach the Throne of Want and seek the king. Because maybe she believes that this land doesn't need one, or I don't know, or pretend to know what her train of thought is on that. That's just a stab in the dark. But it seems as if, yeah, she's been a psychopath this entire time. And while I have talked about it in the Undead Crypt episodes, and we've discussed Licia's backstory a bit at length, and where she could have come from, she's pretty much a closed book at this point. Because whilst we don't know much of her background lore, why she's in Drang Lake, and what she's meant to be doing here, we do know that she was the Nameless Usurper, and that we had to put her reign of terror to an end, as we just did. Other than that, we can only really take away information from her item descriptions. One really interesting one is the Idol's Chime. Sacred Chime of Licia of Lindelt, a catalyst for miracles and hexes. In any town there will be a few folk with unusual urges. They either endeavor to resist these urges or act upon them out of the view of others. The world is not so welcoming to those who may bear their souls true. However, that's just the description. The most important part of the Idol's Chime is the fact that it not only casts miracles, but it also casts hexes. Even that by itself is very interesting to think about, that Licia may have been working with maybe Nashandra, or at least worshipping the dark in some way. And it would make sense for Licia to possibly have been working with Nashandra, as Licia also invades us at Castle Drang Lake right before we meet Nashandra. So, by proxy, Licia may have been kind of Nashandra's guardian or eyes out in Drang Lake when she was following us around, and for some reason she could have been trying to stop us from reaching the throne. Although it doesn't make sense for Licia to be doing this on behalf of Nashandra and through Nashandra's command, because Nashandra has actually been puppeteering us the entire game to seek the throne, to find the king, just to get rid of the roadblocks in her way so she can succeed the Throne of Want. And we're about to get some more dialogue from a Bell Guardian, so we'll revisit this topic in just a second.
The prince made me to guard the bell of Ven. In Ven, the bell of the fine prince. In Vulcan, the bell of the princess. Tear him to shreds, tear him to bits, gather around and ring the bell swift. We've been ringing.
I just wanted the first part of his dialogue there because the rest of it was all repeats of what we heard in Belfry Luna. But the first part of his dialogue actually confirms that this is Ven. Belfry Sol is Ven, or at least the Iron Keep and the surrounding territories are known as Ven. Meanwhile, Belfry Luna is known as Alkin. And if you're wondering what these Black Phantoms are, they are just known as Bell Guardians. They're NPC summons of the Bell Covenant that I'm actually a part of. So yeah, even though I still am a part of this covenant, I get attacked by the NPCs. It's kind of weird, like you would assume that since you're one of these Bell Guardians now, or rather I'm one of these Bell Guardians now, that I wouldn't be getting attacked by my fellow compatriots in the same covenant that I'm in, but nope. I still get attacked a lot by these little fucking scumbags, and they don't stop. They never stop. They always attack you whether you're part of the Covenant or not. If I recall, the only enemies that don't attack you if you're part of a certain Covenant are the elephant enemies, the big elephant warriors, the tusk, mammoth, whatever the hell they're called things, and also the Germ warriors. They won't attack you if you're part of the Rat Covenant. They will just stand idly by, and you'll actually be able to walk right through them and attack them without them aggroing. However, you won't be able to damage them at all. Their enemy models will just stand idle, and your attacks will go straight through them without causing any damage or harm. That was the case in the original version of Dark Souls 2. I don't know if it's still around in Scholar of the First Sin, but if it's not, then I apologize, I didn't know that. Like, I haven't played or tested this game thoroughly enough to know what is different, like what small changes there are in this game and how many of them there are. This is still my first playthrough of Scholar of the First Sin, and I really only know the big changes. And there's not that many big changes, I suppose, but there could be like hundreds of small ones that I don't know about, so forgive me if I do get any of those wrong. So for me, this is still a brand new blind playthrough of Scholar of the First Sin. I'm still uncovering new elements myself of this version of the game along with you guys, so if I do make mistakes, they're really just honest mistakes that anyone could make playing through this game that has a lot of hours in Dark Souls 2. One thing I am glad that they added in Bloodborne, and just going slightly off topic here, is that in messages in Bloodborne, they added like the downvote system for messages, so you could see if someone was trying to fuck with you when they were saying that there was like an invisible wall or a secret wall and you were just wasting your weapon's durability. I hope they bring that back in Dark Souls 3. God, I hope they do. I think it actually may have been in Demon Souls as well, but I don't recall that vividly. I haven't played that game in quite a while. And I kind of want to go back to it thinking about it now. I might actually buy a PVR just for Demon Souls. Oh, and by the way, speaking of stupid edits.
Watch me swing right in. Swing, swing.
So this isn't so much comedic relief for you guys, because I'm not good with comedy, it's more comedic relief for me. This episode is an hour and 20 minutes long, that's like 10 hours of editing, man. I mean, like this, just let me have this. But take note, when you're editing at 4 AM and you've had no sleep, this is the kind of shit that gets into your videos. I just can't trust tired me with editing whatsoever, because Misadventures of Skooks gets into my videos, Justin Timberlake gets into my videos. Never again. Never again. Anyway, let's get back on track. We're back in Things Betwixt because we have one last thing to pick up here, and that is an Estus Flask shard that I had no idea was here in Things Betwixt at the start of the game. The main reason we want to get all of the Estus Flask shards, aside from this playthrough being an in-depth run and we're trying to get everything, is because having 12 Estus Flasks helps a lot with defeating all of the final bosses succinctly. So there's 3 final bosses in this game that come one after the other. And if you don't have 12 Estus or a lot of life gems, you're going to struggle to stay alive throughout all of those boss fights, if you're at least a relatively amateur player, or maybe if you're just not confident that you can do it. Those 12 Estus Flasks help a lot, and they definitely go a long way in... Wait a fucking second.
What the fuck?
What the fuck just happened? Did I not hit that? This game hates me. Well, we're about to pick up the shard right here, off the Basilisk. I think it's either on the Basilisk or in the pit, but that's all we came for, so we're gonna knock down this other shortcut right here, and we're gonna cross back over to the bonfire and carry on with finishing the rest of these little side quests before the end of the game. We have another Estus Flask shard to get in this area that I totally forgot about, and it's all the way in this cavern that we didn't explore in the original run of this area. Like I said earlier in this series, items that I didn't get before I would come back to, so that's what we're doing now. There's also this sneaky as fuck hollow that runs around this area like Sonic the Hedgehog, and I literally can't catch him until I sneak around behind him and put an arrow in his head. And he drops a fucking life gem. Like, what? What? You'll come to understand in a matter of minutes. I chased him around for about 4 minutes, or maybe even longer than that, and he drops a life gem. This hollow that is seemingly impossible to catch runs faster than the speed of fucking light. He drops a life gem. A life gem. Just one. Just one life gem. FromSoft, I have to say, you got me good. You trolled me something fierce. However, and this, it's not personal, but to the person that implemented that hollow in the game and made me chase him around like Sonic the Hedgehog for 10 minutes, I hope you fall on a bonfire so I can kindle it in Dark Souls 3 and use your corpse as a checkpoint system. That's fair enough, right? Is that too much? I don't think it is. But I'm just kidding. I don't want that to happen to anyone. But I do want to play Dark Souls 3, and I am really fucking psyched for it, as I've already said in this episode probably 100 times by now. And one thing I have forgotten to mention so far, and in all seriousness, I know that people have been waiting for like a Dark Souls 3 speculation or whatever video to come out from me. I just want to take this second to say that it is in fact coming out. And it won't be like sometime very soon. It'll be maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now. And that's mainly just because of time restrictions that I have, and also because of the fact that I want to be able to present as much information as I can before the release of Dark Souls 3, along with my own speculation that I have thought about thoroughly, and I have come to an understanding of. And here we pick up another piece of the Estus flask. But anyway, I don't want a repeat of what happened last time. Basically, what happened was I assumed the Lord of Cinder in that CG trailer to be a giant lord, and that was debunked in like a matter of minutes later, like maybe half an hour or an hour. Or I think it may have even been debunked before I even uploaded the video, but I didn't know about the information. So this time around, I'm making sure I have all my information correct. I'm making sure that if a trailer comes out, and I plan to include it in that video, that I know everything about the trailer, and I know everything about the contents of said trailer and what happens in it. I don't have to know anything about the lore, I just want to make sure that I have my facts straight when I talk about what happens in the trailer itself. The way I usually work with trailers and analyzing them is that I'll wait around 2 hours, and I'll look at the information that has been presented to me within that time, and then I will make a video on it almost immediately within the same day. And here you can see this. This is the lightning fast fucking hollow right here. So this is what I was trying to catch. This little fucker does not stop. He doesn't stop, and he drops a life gem. I hope you can understand my frustration just from watching this. And this wasn't even the first time I tried to catch him. I cut out most of the times I tried, and then I finally realized that using a bow was the smart way to go. So you're only seeing a modicum of the ridiculousness, and I ran up to him, like I was so excited to see what it was, and life gem. Life gem. It's a life gem. It's just a life gem. That's it. Congratulations, From Software. You broke me. You broke me with a life gem. Not Dark Souls. You broke me with a life gem. A life gem that didn't need to be in the game. We have Estus. We don't need life gems if we have Estus. Or maybe Estus wasn't even real to begin with. Alright, that one was weird and unorthodox, even for me, I'll admit that. But let's not dwell on the past, let's move forward. We're almost at the end of the game here, so I think I have the right to get a little bit more weird as the video comes to a close. And to anyone that's wondering what happens after this main series ends, I am going to do the DLC, so don't worry about that. But I will be taking a bit of a hiatus from Dark Souls 2, and I'm going to be playing a live commentary run of Dark Souls 1 that I have already started. So that's going to be kind of between now and Dark Souls 3. And hopefully I can finish the Dark Souls 2 DLC before Dark Souls 3, possibly. I kind of don't see that happening, but in the worst case scenario, I'll be playing Dark Souls 3 at the same time as Dark Souls 2's DLC. Or I'll be playing Dark Souls 3, and then I'll be coming back to Dark Souls 2 DLC, and I'll be finishing that off. So either way, it will get done. But before we finish up, we have one more person to talk to, Carhillion of the Fold.
I sense power. Very well. From this day, you will be my new pupil. I am Carhillion of the Fold. Surely you've heard the name. Now, do not be afraid. Let us explore the limits of sorcery. The forces of magic and souls lie dormant in this land. It is a fitting place to hone my sorceries. I suspect that I may even conjure up new spells here. Sorcery is yet a mystery, even to me. Let us mature together, young pupil. Use scrolls to unleash the power of sorceries. But the power of each scroll is reliant on that of its owner. The untrained cannot wield a scroll to its proper potential. Never forget, young pupil, there are no shortcuts to mastery. The forces of magic and
So Carillion doesn't really do much for us except for give us a few low-class spells here and talk himself up as a kind of big shot in the magic world, but we've never heard of him. Just like many other people in Drang Lake who we have never heard of that claim to be great warriors or sorcerers or something of the like. And I think that's because people from all over the world get pulled to Drang Lake like a magnetic force, and people here in Drang Lake have actually never heard of them.
Never forget. Young pupil, may we meet again in Majula?
Okay, so you can't see it, but I'm pretty sure that triggered the achievement for getting all of the NPC characters to Majula. And I have my achievements turned off in-game because they can be a bit annoying, and I can also see when people like come online and stuff, so I have that turned off. But I'm 90% sure that I got that achievement. And yeah, like I said, all you need to do to get it is just to bring all of the NPCs that can be brought to Majula back to Majula. And you do that just by exhausting all of their dialogue. There is, however, one more small thing for us to get while we are here in Hyde's Tower of Flame, and I didn't get this before because I didn't have a Fragrant Branch of Yore with me. So now that I have a Fragrant Branch of Yore, we are going to collect it. I believe there's nothing of incredible import up here except for the Estus Flask Shard that I'm going to get. There is also the Night Set, but that is about it for this area. There is also one other weird thing about this place upstairs, and that is a Mammoth Knight, or whatever they're called. There is one of those residing upstairs in Hyde's Tower of Flame, and we're about to see it in just a second. I don't know how you can really explain there being a Mammoth Knight here, but my guess would be that Vendrick has a bunch of different, like, classes of warriors working for him, including the Old Knights, which we see in Drang Lake, and even in the Shrine of Amana, guarding Vendrick's tomb. And those classes of warriors are very diverse, and probably include these Mammoth Knights, because in the original Dark Souls 2, we saw them in Drang Lake Castle themselves, and I'm pretty sure there is still one in there, I just can't remember where I saw it. But this door is actually probably one of the most interesting things in Hyde's Tower of Flame. That is the same door, and the same inscriptions on the door that we see in both Drang Lake Castle, I believe, and the Iron Keep. It may not have been in Drang Lake Castle, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that the Iron King seems to have taken iron from all over the land to build his castle. So these doors that were in Hyde's Tower of Flame, simultaneously being in the Iron Keep as well, may have been repurposed to fit the Iron Keep from Hyde's Tower of Flame. Either that, or the Iron King also had a hand in building Hyde's Tower of Flame, which actually gave me a bit of an idea, and it might be a bit out of the box, and I don't know if it would connect at all or make any sense. But the old Iron King could have possibly been, his name could have possibly been Hyde when he was known as a prince. Or, I don't know, it might sound stupid, it might sound out of the box, might sound crazy, but I don't know, it just came to mind and I thought I'd share it. I have a few circumstantial ideas on how it could be possible, but I'll share those after we talk to Shanalot here.
My journey is already complete. My name is Shanalot. The dragon gave me this name, for I was born with none. I was born of dragons, contrived by men. By ones who would cozen fate herself. They are the ones who created me. But they failed. I did not come out as intended. Fate would not be bested, and men were cursed once again. If you proceed, Nashandra will come after you, knowing that you will take the throne and link the fire. She covets the first flame and the great soul. Put Nashandra to rest.
Okay, so we'll get back to the Iron King thing in a second, but we need to talk about that dialogue first and foremost. The main thing that I want to clear up is that when she said she was born of dragons and contrived by men, I don't think that means she was literally birthed by a dragon. I think it means she was created as an experiment by Aldia and Vendrick in a lab, not organically, like she was grown in a lab. And after all that trouble, they realized that she was a failure in the end, and she could not break the curse of undeath. Therefore, they didn't even bother to give Shanalot a name. It sounds like she was thrown out like a piece of trash and left to fend for herself, and that's when the dragons found her and chose to raise her and gave her the name Shanalot. Another thing we have to discuss that's very important though is the idea that the Throne of Want is not the first flame. If you listen to Shanalot and Aldia very closely, you will get the sense that the throne and the fire are not the same, or not one and the same at least. It seems as if the throne is either a proxy or something of that sort, so it stops the person trying to kindle it from burning up their physical form. It also seems as if the throne was crafted for much bigger creatures than ourselves, maybe people the size of Vendrick and Nashandra, but definitely not us. Yet we still ascend the throne. So rather than thinking of it as a throne for one size and one size only, try thinking of it as a throne that is one size fits all. And that is why we, and also creatures bigger than us, are able to ascend it, although Vendrick chose not to. And that is one of the biggest questions. Why did Vendrick choose not to ascend the Throne of Want? Well, we actually find out at the end of this video. It's to do with Aldia, and to do with Aldia's influence. What Aldia tells us at the very end of this video is probably the exact same thing that he told Vendrick when he said he wanted to ascend the throne. And I apologize for having to talk through this boss fight, but there are still a few more things that we need to talk about before the end of the game. And while we will be discussing a bit at the end credits, I still haven't shared my circumstantial evidence on how the Iron King could have been Hyde. So it's really not much, and don't hate me for trying to think of such an out-of-the-box theory, but the door that we see in Hyde's Tower of Flame is literally the exact same one that we see at the Iron Keep, and it's used multiple times. Now, you could justify this as just reusing textures, but the door in Hyde's Tower of Flame is modeled differently. It's broken, and they wouldn't model this door as a broken piece of the structure if it didn't have some lore significance, I suppose. It is broken because it is meant to be seen and it is meant to be thought about, and there are actually some parallels between the Iron Keep and the Iron King's actions around the area of Ven that can link to Hyde's Tower of Flame. For one, Hyde's Tower of Flame, it has affinity with fire, and the old Iron King, well, his entire kingdom is built on that of lava and fire, so there's a parallel there already. There's also the fact that the architecture of the Iron Keep and Hyde's Tower of Flame are incredibly similar. They both share a design reminiscent of that of Anor Londo from Dark Souls 1, kind of cathedral-esque and Florentine in architectural design. Not only this, but Hyde's Tower of Flame is also connected directly to No Man's Wharf, and as we know, No Man's Wharf is a place where undead are corralled and sent to the Lost Bastille, which is a prison for all undead in the land of Dreng Lake. This parallels directly to the hunting of undead in the Huntsman's Copse, and then also the imprisonment of the undead in the Undead Purgatory. Like I said, it's not much and it's very circumstantial, but I mean, it was just a thought, and you know what? We did good on the Throne Watcher and Defender. Basically, their lore is really simple. They are just here to guard the Throne of Want, and that's about it.
Brave undead, you have proven yourself to me. Now, be one with the dark.
Okay, so this is Nashandra. I almost do these boss fights in rapid succession, so one after the other, but not quite, unfortunately. I am going to let you guys enjoy this boss fight, so I'm going to shut up for a little bit until we get to Aldia, and then we'll carry on from there. And that's just mostly because we've discussed Nashandra's lore at length like 10 times already, so I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing it. But if not, then we'll just go over it really quickly right now. So in Dark Souls 1, there was a boss and a creature known as Manus, Father of the Abyss. We defeated him as the player in Dark Souls 1, and he shattered into pieces. Nashandra is one of those pieces of Dark, also known as Daughters of Dark, that has been reformed in the land of Dreng Lake. Her main goal is to ascend the Throne of Want. Nashandra is pretty much the embodiment of Want, because when we get her weapons, or her soul rather, they turn into the weapons the Scythe of Want and the Chime of Want, which confirm to us that she is basically the embodiment of greed. There are 3 other pieces of Manus in this game, and each of them sort of have their own personality in that respect, like greed, anger, wrath, and whatever Alsana is in the 3rd DLC. But like I said, we'll get to that all in due time, so for now, just sit back and enjoy the rest of the fight.
And there we have Nishandra defeated. Now it's time for us to listen to someone very wise that also ends up trying to murder us.
Many monarchs have come and gone. One drowned in poison, another succumbed to flame. Still another slumbers in the realm of earth. Not one of them stood here as you do now. You, conqueror of adversities. Is your answer?
Okay, so as you can tell, there's no time code for this fight, so that means this is obviously not the final fight I have with Aldia. Therefore, I must die. So that's a given. Anyway, basic lore for Aldia, and then I'll do the same thing I did with Nishandra. I'll shut up and let you enjoy the fight. Aldia is, I believe, Vendrick's older brother. He may be the younger brother, I'm not quite sure there. But together, Vendrick and Aldia were trying to break the curse of undeath. Eventually, Aldia got too extreme with his experiment and had to be exiled into his own keep. Being exiled within his own keep pushed Aldia to experiment even more on trying to break the curse of undeath, or at least to find a way to halt it. Aldia started testing giants, humans, and many other creatures of the like to try and find a way around the curse. During this time, Aldia created Shanalot and the Ancient Dragon, and respectively, both ended up being failures. Further along down the line, it seems as if Aldia started experimenting on not only others, but also himself. It seems as if everyone in the land of Drang is a victim to the curse of undeath, and the curse does not discriminate when it comes to humanity. Anything with humanity is affected by the curse of undeath. Since this would include Aldia as well, obviously Aldia wanted to find a way of breaking the curse for himself, and by the look of him here, he seems to have succeeded, albeit he has lost his original corporeal form. The way it seems Aldia has done this is by experimenting with both the light and the dark, because now he seems to be one with chaos, very similar to the Witch of Izalith in Dark Souls 1. An amalgamation of living twigs and branches, not to mention the chaos pyromancy that he emits. There are a lot of indicators that point towards the fact that Aldia may have become one with the old chaos. So the short of it is pretty much Aldia experimented on his body until he could go no further, ended up destroying his corporeal form, his physical form as a man, and in doing so transferred his soul into this vessel that he occupies now, which is seemingly unaffected by the curse of undeath. So I guess you can say that Aldia did indeed break his curse of undeath, albeit at a very, very great cost. Anyway, that's about all the basic lore we have on Aldia, and some of that is also assumption, because we are never told that he breaks the curse of undeath for himself or in any way. That's all just circumstantial evidence as well from what we are given in the way of item descriptions and lore within Scholar of the First Sin. So, as I did with Nishandra, I'm going to let the rest of this boss fight play out, and I'll get back to you guys after that.
Please, no! 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 No!
Yeah, so that happened. Let's take two.
yourself, everything, and remain here patiently. The throne will certainly receive you, but the question remains: which do you want? Tell me. Light, dark, or something else entirely?
So there we have it, guys. We have defeated Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin, and I'm sorry to those who wanted to see the throne ending, we are going the Dark Lord ending for this playthrough.
There is no path. Beyond the scope of light, beyond the reach of dark. What could possibly await us? And yet we seek it insatiably. Such is our fate.
That was a wild ride, so thanks so much for watching, guys. If you've made it all the way through this episode, you are a real fucking trooper, because, man, I did not make it easy for you, and I apologize for that, but I hope you understand. As I said earlier in the video, there will be more Dark Souls 2 coming shortly after Dark Souls 3, hopefully. I don't think I'll get to it before Dark Souls 3 because I want to finish this Dark Souls 1 playthrough, and I kind of want to have some guests on, possibly in that playthrough as well, to play alongside me and talk about the lore of the game, and just to give some of their own opinions and viewpoints on Dark Souls 1. Hopefully. I'm hoping to get people on, but if I don't, it's no big deal. Hopefully I can suffice. The main problem with having guests on in live commentary is that I don't have very good internet here in Australia, so talking to them over Skype or TeamSpeak or whatever people use would be problematic if it came to a bad internet connection. That is one of the contributing factors to why Vems and Mir has become kind of a one-man show at the moment, because it's really difficult doing two people at the moment on Skype, recording both streams of audio and then getting it all together. Like, my content would take 2 times longer to produce at this stage than it already is. So I really don't want to have to do that to you guys, since you wait so patiently for these episodes already, and I thank you so much for it. And even though Dark Souls 2 was not as well received as Dark Souls 1, I thank From Software wholeheartedly for creating such a beautiful game. So, once again guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the main series of Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, even though you had to put up with all of my shit. And I hope you tune in for the next series that I do, which is Dark Souls 1, so look out for it if you're interested. Some Dark Souls 3 content will follow shortly, so also keep an eye out for that if you're interested in Dark Souls 3. And I will see you all next time, guys. Thanks again for watching.